There is a water weed problem in the Fort Cobb Reservoir, and the federal government wants to apply the chemical 2,4-D to destroy the troublesome weed. Fort Cobb Reservoir supplies drinking water to Chickasha and nearby communities. And that's why Councilmember Shirley McCullough is violently opposed to the chemical application.
Well, we feel the water here in Chickasha is safe to drink right now, and those of us who are really concerned about it just want to keep it that way. There are too many unanswered questions concerning the safety of 2,4-D.
The fact that the chemical was used in the reservoir in 1974, 75, and 76 doesn't change her mind. McCullough feels 2,4-D is a health hazard.
The studies that have been done that we have show that it is quite possibly a cancer, carcinogenic. It causes birth defects, causes hemorrhages, causes miscarriages, causes skin rashes, symptoms of flu. This is acute poisoning cases, which we realize that no one's going to be acutely poisoned because of 2 tons of 2,4-D that's put in the water at Fort Cobb Lake.
McCullough wanted the city council to get involved and fight the dumping, but she soon learned she was in the minority. I talked to 2 city council members today. They declined an on-camera interview, but they did say they don't feel the chemical is hazardous the way the Environmental Protection Agency plans to use it. Ben McCain, Action 4, Chickasha.
These are some of the 1,000 eligible city employees to vote on a new 1-year agreement with Oklahoma City. The proposal includes a 54 cents an hour raise for most of the non-uniform city workers. That's about a 9% increase and will mean an additional $43 more in their biweekly checks. Voting has been going on since 7 o'clock this morning at Union headquarters. The current contract between these employees and the city will end on July 1st. If this proposal is accepted by the membership, the contract will then go to the City Council on either July 7th or 14th for consideration. If the Council doesn't approve, it's back to the drawing board.
There has been a steady flow of union voters all day. At 6 o'clock, union leaders will go over the proposal one more time for those not clear on all the details. At 7 o'clock, the vote count starts. And officials here expect the contract to pass without any problems at all. Ed Stewart, Action 4, Southwest Oklahoma City. Frank Lynch is no longer county commissioner for Oklahoma County's District 2. Unlike many county commissioners, Frank Lynch did not resign because of pressure of the FBI-IRS probe into corrupt county government. Instead, Mr. Lynch resigned because of failing health. Now there are 2 people seeking his job tomorrow in a special election, Buck Buchanan and Bill Bishop.
As a city councilman, Bill Bishop has been involved with public office for 16 years, and he thinks it's that kind of experience that would make him a better county commissioner. He, like his opponent, talks about being closer to the people if elected to the county post. Bishop is well aware of how recently people distrust county commissioners and talked about what effect it has on him.
Recently, in the past few days, of course, they have relived old accusations. The same people have accused me repeatedly through the years with no facts, no truth. From one standpoint, I'm probably the most clean person far as my record is concerned that has ever run for this office.
F.G. Buck Buchanan told us it's time for some new blood in public office, besides that of an experienced politician. The retired Air Force colonel says he has dealt with situations very similar to that of a county commissioner, and he calls himself a back-to-basics candidate, only interested in doing a good job. Buchanan also talked about a county commissioner's image.
I'm not a professional politician, so I have, what I'm telling you comes straight from the heart, because I'm running because I feel that we have a problem that needs to be corrected. If I say I'm going to be open about things, I've never lied to this point, why should I start now for an office that really I don't necessarily need, but I feel an urgency to see if we can't do something for the taxpayers.
This map shows just what both men are after. District 2 of Oklahoma County is a large one, covering the southern portion of the county, as far north as Britton Road and as far south as South 89th Street. In District 2, Ed Stewart, Action 4.
I don't know, I haven't talked to him about what the Jones program. I think that battle was over probably sometime in the last year and a half. There's been very little progress from the standpoint of the ERA proponents. I don't know what is going to happen in the Oklahoma legislature. I see no signs that it's moving here. I doubt very seriously that they will get the states that they need. I don't think ERA will become law.
I'm the spirit of America. I'm a 727 jet. I'm an Ozark fiddle.
That's Uncle Sam, and he's alive and well at the America Alive and Well rally at All Sports Stadium tonight. The rally was sponsored by the Oklahoma Youth Development Center and the Oklahoma chapter of the Vietnam Veterans. The crowds came to hear musical entertainment and see fireworks along with Miss Oklahoma. But the big question on everyone's mind was, is America alive and well?
Absolutely. God's country.
I think America is alive and getting better.
Sure do.
See the cornfields and the cotton and the peanuts growing, and you forget it. You forget what it's like, and I think this kind of reminds you just how lucky you are.
Is America alive and well?
Hopefully.
The show's entertainment lineup was first rate with Donna Fargo, the Rambos, and Sweet Inspirations. A huge fireworks display was scheduled for later in the evening, but unfortunately for the Youth Center and the Vietnam vets, not too many people showed up. So even though it's alive and well, America had other things to do tonight. Ted Brown, Action 4 from All Sports Stadium.
People at Oklahoma City's Will Rogers World Airport were lining up today, buying airline tickets for the holiday weekend, not aware that air traffic controllers may be changing their flight plans if the controllers decide to go on strike.
We'll be using gate 33, and they'll board down there at 11:05. Thank you.
At least half the nation's air travelers will have to find another way to travel if controllers reject the tentative contract proposal and decide to strike illegally. There are mixed feelings among these passengers on a possible strike.
I think it'll hurt the businesses, people who have to fly. For instance, the company I work for, they fly a lot out of state, out of country, and it'll hurt them a lot. If they go on strike, they won't be able to fly, and that's how they do all their business.
I think they ought to keep the traffic moving. They should keep skeleton crew on hand at least. I know they have legitimate reason for strike perhaps, but at the same time there's needs for the airlines to continue moving traffic.
There's so much responsibility in it that, I think they might have a valid gripe. I hate to see them go on strike. But if that's what it needs to be to get what they're trying to accomplish, then think maybe it'll be all right.
The question now is, will controllers reject the tentative agreement? If they do and don't budge on their original proposals, and if the government doesn't budge on its original proposals, it's almost a sure thing that we'll hear strike talk again.
Supply heading 260.
Controllers want more money and a shorter work week, in addition to some changes involving working conditions. Government negotiators have already said they will not pay the controllers more than the $40 million package already offered. Ratification ballots are being sent to some 15,000 controllers for their vote. If the contract is rejected, no one has even hinted when talks will resume. Ed Stewart, Action 4.
It was an acrobatic biplane, the type used in barnstorming exhibitions. Officials aren't sure yet why it crashed, but speculate the pilot may have been executing some aerial stunts. Dead in the crash is Mike Young, president of Keith Aviation Company in Shawnee. The plane went down about 11 o'clock this morning after taking off from the Shawnee airport. The field where the plane came to rest is just west of Highway 177 and 1 mile north of the Lincoln County line. Officials say the man's residence was just a few hundred feet away and that his wife was one of the first on the scene. Federal Aviation Administration officials are investigating the cause of the crash. Ted Brown, Action 4, just north of Shawnee.
Park Place appears fine. Last week we talked with Nancy Johnson, who participated in Urban Renewal's 312 low-interest loan program. The loan was to go toward rehabilitating her house, but she says the house is now in worse shape than ever before after the contractor has supposedly finished the job. Mrs. Johnson blames the Urban Renewal Authority because she says only a few contractors are allowed to work on homes, and they are handpicked by the authority. She adds contractors do sloppy work and are still paid for it. Today, the Urban Renewal Authority Executive Director defended the 312 program and how it's operated. Horace Huskerson totally disagrees with the charges.
There's simply no basis for that charge. As a matter of fact, the homeowner can pick their own contractor, maybe one that we have never even had on our list. It's always been that way.
Huskerson says no doubt there will be some problems with the 312 program, but overall it works well for those who use it. As for people like Mrs. Johnson, he intends to thoroughly check out the complaints brought to his attention. Ed Stewart, Action 4, downtown Oklahoma City.
Well, it's the same old story. The Federal Home Loan Bank Board reported that in June, mortgage interest rates hit the highest level in history, 16.75%. Now, these high interest rates are old news, but what has not been reported very much is why those interest rates are so high. The main reason we have high interest rates is because the Federal Reserve System has been reducing the amount of money available to the commercial banking system. Let me show you how this works. Suppose that we've got a bank with $2 to loan out. Now, of course, if I were going to be realistic, these would be $1,000 bills instead of ones. But neither my wife nor Channel 4 will trust me with that sort of money, so we'll use ones. Now, suppose we have two borrowers, me, Will Clark, and you, the television viewer. We come into the bank and ask to borrow $1 apiece. The bank is more than willing to make that loan since that's how they make their living. And since they've got plenty of money on hand, as much as people want in this case, they make the interest rate fairly reasonable. Let's say 10%. Now suppose that one of these dollars is drawn out of the banking system, and still you and I come in and want to borrow the remaining dollar. Now the bank will loan this dollar out, but it will have to charge a higher interest rate. Either you, the viewer, or me will have to pay a higher interest rate. So the point I'm making is the reason we have high interest rates is because the availability of money to be lent is being restricted by the Federal Reserve. I'm Will Clark, and unfortunately, that's the bottom line.
top reservoir supplies drinking water to Anadarko, Chickasha, and other nearby communities. The lake is also a prime source of recreation. But a pesky water weed has been causing problems in the lake. So the federal government wants to use the herbicide 2,4-D to control the weed. But citizens protest against the plan and ask the government to put the plan on hold, at least until the government could explain the proposal thoroughly. That was the reason for tonight's informational meeting in Anadarko. Dozens of concerned citizens packed the Anadarko High School cafeteria. They listened to a parade of government scientists explain the special steps taken to ensure citizens' safety during the experiment.
Based on previous applications and extensive literature reviews, 2,4-D is expected to be undetectable in water at the treatment plots within 2 to 3 weeks, undetectable in sediment within 8 weeks, and undetectable in fish tissues within 1 to 2 weeks.
Citizens who oppose the herbicide application are presenting their viewpoint at this hour, but their arguments may fall on deaf ears. Tonight's meeting was not a public hearing, merely an informational briefing. Government officials say they plan to apply the herbicide at the end of this month, despite any public protests. Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Anadarko.
And with the various members of the agencies, boards, and commission, it's the first item on your list. Incident covering, it's the one time in the year who are volunteers who serve. We certainly would have pushed, I would have pushed. That if we have lead time, and if there are no unusual cuts about which we don't know now, that Oklahoma can basically, as you said, pretty well, cover any of the programs that the legislature and the various agencies might feel need to be covered. Of course, I don't know what those are yet, but we should analyze what the federal government has cut, and then we'll analyze whether or not that's an obligation that the state wants to assume, and if it is, I think we can cover it.
Building a house is a pretty tough job. However, buying one is even tougher. That's because not many people can afford an 18% mortgage. With that in mind, the State Housing Finance Agency has given the green light to begin working on a $280 million bond package. Now, the program would be drawn up by underwriters and the money used by Oklahomans with moderate incomes to finance single-family homes. Nothing firm yet as the plan is still in the works, but the money will be available at lower mortgage rates in mid to late September. The bond program is like one offered last year with 3 exceptions. Only first-time homebuyers are eligible this year, those who haven't owned a home in 3 years. At least 20% of the loans given out will have to be used to buy homes in targeted or designated neighborhoods. And finally, income limitations for borrowers will be stricter this year. Stiffer qualifications are a result of a new federal law, a law that will eventually prohibit state bond issues like this one after 1983.
We have a sunset law that we will have 3 years, and we hope to have 3 $280 million issues, and then we'll either have to have a new law or we'll be out of the single-family business and tax-free bonds.
Details on who qualifies for the bond money and where to sign up have not been announced yet. But when the word is out, Haney figures the low-interest money will make houses like these within reach of moderate-income families. Larry Otis, Action 4.
About half the fresh fruits and vegetables sold in the country during the summer months come from California. And a large portion of the produce sold in Oklahoma comes to this Safeway warehouse here in Oklahoma City. The threat of quarantine has prompted California Governor Jerry Brown to do something he didn't want to do: spray the fields from the air. If California produce were to be quarantined, consumers across the country would pay the price. including those here in Oklahoma.
Many of the items that was involved in this at this particular time of the year are available only from the state of California. This group would include your citrus items, oranges, grapefruit, and lemons, and then some of your summer fruits, the nectarines, plums, and grapes. Naturally, the heavier demand from those areas by the many supermarkets would have created a price increase.
Governor Brown has okayed aerial spraying in California. However, the federal government still may quarantine certain counties, so the crisis isn't over yet. The fruit fly still may take a toll on Oklahoma's produce shelves. Ted Brown, Action 4.
Stevens County Commissioner Eston Fisher was supposed to go on trial today in federal court. He's being charged with 67 counts of mostly mail fraud and corruption while in office. You may recall many county commissioners from around Oklahoma are being charged with taking kickbacks from building suppliers. Well, the Fisher trial will not go on as scheduled, and U.S. Assistant Attorney Bill Price explains why.
Eston Fisher appeared and pled guilty to 3 counts of mail fraud. We learned of his change of plea as of late Saturday afternoon while we were preparing for trial. Mr. Fisher faces up to 15 years imprisonment and up to $3,000 in fines.
What sort of agreement was struck with the government? Did he agree to resign? Did he agree to cooperate with the government's probe?
Essentially, Mr. Fisher agreed to cooperate with the government in the course of the case, agreed to plead guilty to the 3 counts. Obviously, by pleading guilty to felony counts, it necessitates a resignation.
The next county commissioner trial is scheduled for Wednesday morning. That's when Wayne Cooksey goes on trial for 1 count of extortion and 23 counts of mail fraud. Ed Stewart, Action 4 at the federal courthouse.
I like that one.
Forest Park residents packed the Oklahoma City Council chambers today, prepared to fight against a proposed sludge pit. The council had proposed to dump treated sewage sludge in a pit just outside the Forest Park city limits. Officials say the dumping would only be until the new North Canadian sewage plant is open to handle the overflow of sludge. Forest Park residents say they just don't want the sludge near them, and so today an alternative plan was proposed.
Why not leave the sludge right where it is, and that is at the Oklahoma City Lincoln Park Zoo. This area is in great need of fertilization. This area can absorb the sludge that is presently at the north side plant.
This map shows where Councilman James has suggested the sludge be spread out, just north of the Oklahoma City Zoo and east of Eastern Avenue, in addition to other land designated to the zoo.
This Oklahoma City sewage plant is scheduled to be phased out later on this year. It's in this area that Councilman Gory James is proposing that sludge from other Oklahoma City sewage plants be dumped. But you may recall not too very long ago, a developer decided to build a housing complex in this area too. But that was successfully blocked by the National Cowboy Hall of Fame. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Northeast Oklahoma City.
To 60% of the fruit in Oklahoma grocery stores comes from California. The quarantine requires that California fruit entering the Sooner State be certified. The certification assures Oklahomans that the fruit is free of the Mediterranean fruit fly. At the state capitol, Agriculture Commissioner Jack Craig said the quarantine does not mean an embargo of California fruit.
And there's a big difference. We're going to quarantine it in that we're going to make these fruits and vegetables pass strict inspection regulations but we're not going to bar them from coming into the state. So it should have, at this point, a minimal effect on the consumers.
Commissioner Craig added that Oklahoma has never had a Mediterranean fruit fly infestation. However, he said if the fly infested the state, it could destroy our fruits and vegetables with an estimated value in excess of $5 million. Ben McCain, Action 4.
This is Larry Audis in Norman, and this is a no-no. That is, if it's the wrong day or the wrong hour. Odd-even water rationing has been in effect in Norman since July 1st and will continue through October 1st. The rule of thumb is water every other day, but never on Monday, and never between 10 in the morning and 10 at night. The rationing program is working, but a lot of residents don't like watering late at night or early in the morning.
Every day we get certain people that feel that they should be exempt or we should change the hours to fit their particular needs, but the program is designed around equity for the most people and trying to keep water and service to all areas of town, and we feel it's very successful and intend to hold to it.
Okay, you have enough water, it's just getting the water out, is that correct?
That's correct. It's the problem with the treatment plant of treating the water and then transporting it into all areas of town.
Crosby says he gets anywhere from 5 to 30 calls a day complaining about the rationing system. But after all, he says what's fair is fair. If the city can drain its own fountain, residents can conserve water too. Larry Audis, Action 4 in Norman.
According to the Oklahoma Securities Commission, the State Multinational Takeover Act was designed to protect stockholders during takeover bids, like the ongoing battle over Conoco oil. However, U.S. District Judge Lee West ruled the law caused unnecessary delays by requiring multinational bidders to announce terms of the proposed takeovers.
It gave the management of a target company the sole right to determine whether or not to invoke the act. Because takeovers that were friendly to management and past the board of directors aren't subject to this act. It tilts the scales in favor of the incumbent management of the companies.
So Seagram's won their battle today in federal court. However, the Oklahoma legislature is working on another bill that would replace the bill.